Module 4. Conduct Job Appraisals. This is Module 4 in the 12-module series in the Canadian Management Professional Accreditation Program. Performance appraisals, job appraisals, performance analysis, etc. are all terms to describe the ways to evaluate performance. Employees shudder at the thought of this annual process. Managers and supervisors feel the same. Managers often find the performance review process a waste of time. Employees find it an unfair process with built-in biases. All too often, this annual appraisal decides an employee's fate, whether he or she receives that salary increase and promotion or, rather, is the recipient of the boss's wrath and unceremoniously moved laterally to another department. Still, if conducted using an objective process, performance reviews, or appraisals, remain one of the best ways to measure how well employees are meeting employer objectives, charting the course of employee development. Although entrenched in most departments as a progressive and necessary means to gauge not only employee performance and satisfaction, but the meeting of corporate goals, it seems that performance reviews are here to stay. Yet how effective are they in evaluating the abilities and talents of your company's employees? The process is often adversarial and inconsistent. They can be a good tool, but most companies tend to use the appraisal process wrongly. Managers and supervisors who are ill-prepared put employees on the defensive. So instead of building winning teams, the process often destroys employees' morale and ultimately affects productivity. The process is fraught with pitfalls, so much so that conducting performance reviews is undoubtedly the most emotional part of a leader's duty. A well-known study conducted by GE in the United States identified common mistakes made in the formal review process. The study determined that employees become less receptive as time moves on when they perceive they are receiving harsh criticisms. When employees were given developmental feedback, they were initially receptive. Later, they were less so. Reasons include too much information. Often, managers use the review as an opportunity to belittle or demoralize a problem employee. The performance review is not a time to discuss everything. Narrow the reasons why you are both there. Moreover, no employee likes to be told that he or she is doing a poor job. Yet there are times when that information has to honestly be given for developmental reasons. Consider another approach companies use that Professor Robert Oppenheimer of Concordia University in Montreal calls the sandwich technique. Good news, bad news, and then some more good news. The root cause of adversarial performance reviews is a lack of clear objectives and inconsistency from one review to another. When the supervisor, the team leader, or the manager is inconsistent from one performance period to the next, with one employee to the next, the process fails and staff become demoralized. Employees need to know on a regular, formal basis how well they are meeting the objective expectations of the employer. Here are some concerns with performance appraisals. The dread of annual performance appraisals is fueled by a number of concerns of both management and employees. The following are examples of some of these concerns. Defensive. Employees go on the defensive. For example, I didn't do that, it was John's fault. Surprise. Employees show surprise. For example, I didn't know you wanted it done that way. Evaluations. Employees feel that evaluations are subjective and that managers and supervisors use favoritism. Another concern is that there is no criteria. For example, no measurables established. Negative focus. The evaluation process is perceived to have a negative focus. For example, you didn't meet our quota, you're always late. Only negatives are discussed. Inconsistency. There's a concern that evaluations are not consistent. For example, different points and comments for different subordinates, and all departments conduct appraisals differently. Credibility. Evaluations are thought to have no credibility both in the system and the process because there's no follow-up, no action plan, and too many broken promises by management. The first step to establishing credibility in the evaluation process is to identify the needs of employees. If you do not have a formal evaluation process, you will need to identify the employee's needs before you attempt to establish one. If you presently have an evaluation process, but it is not effective, you will have to revisit the process and shore up the weaker parts. One of the more effective methods to identify the needs of employees is to conduct an employee survey. Employee surveys are only useful, however, if action is taken by the organization on the information received. Needs of employees. Recognition. Employees need recognition. It is no surprise that employees require knowledge on how well they are doing. Accomplishment. All employees want to feel a sense of accomplishment. Otherwise, why wake up in the morning? Money alone is not enough to motivate human beings. Acceptance. Employees, with few exceptions, need to feel accepted and be part of the whole. Consistency. Employees want consistency from their leaders, and they want feedback on performance. Input. Employees want to help solve problems and make decisions and have input to objectives and performance standards. Clear goals. The key here is setting clear objectives. The objective setting exercise establishes clear goals and a sense of accomplishment. It results in no contradiction between the role of the team leader and the needs of the employees. They will feel a sense of accomplishment, a sense of belonging, and will participate willingly in the process. As well, consistency and fairness will be established in the process. Everybody's objectives are going to be set based on concrete performance standards. So, when the appraisal period comes up, it need not be adversarial, but based on clear expectations. Belonging. As the workplace is a type of community, it is natural to expect that the rules of the community apply here. Rare is there a person who doesn't like being part of the group. Man is a social animal, notes Baruch Spinoza, the 17th century philosopher and ethicist. As such, employees want a sense of belonging. Employees want to be a part of the team. They want to be part of the gang at work. Nobody wants to be ostracized, isolated, or put in a corner. Employees feel like they belong when all departments are working for the organization's goals and not working independently. Work for less money. If the employee's needs are met, he or she will work for less money and stay with the organization. If needs are not met, they'll be unproductive, cranky, move around, possibly disrupt others, and eventually leave. Today's job applicants know the value of their skills in the workplace and are looking for an organization that they can work for. Roles of a supervisor. Leadership carries a list of characteristics, including to give employees clear, measurable objectives, to delegate the workload, to monitor and control the workload, and to evaluate performance and provide feedback to all team members. Although this is tricky, it is necessary to balance the goals of the team leader, the supervisor, or the manager with the emotional needs of the team members, of the other employees, and of all staff. The leader's role are to set objectives, delegate work, monitor and control, evaluate performance, and provide feedback. The employee's needs: sense of accomplishment, acceptance by peers, input into decisions, feedback on performance, and a chance to exceed objectives. The leader's roles: set measurable objectives. The leader must take the organization's goals and set objectives with employees to identify their roles in the larger picture. Delegate work. Another role of the leader is to organize the workload and monitor work delegated to employees. Monitor and control. The professional leader is also responsible to monitor and control projects and/or daily routines of employees under his or her direction. Evaluate performance. Professional leaders are responsible for evaluating employees under their direction and taking corrective action when warranted. Employees' performance directly affects the leader's evaluation. Finally, provide feedback. Professional leaders are responsible to provide feedback to employees on their performance, whether it is good or bad. In another lesson in this series, methods to credit employees and/or correct problems and get employees back on track are learned. If we compare the roles of the professional leader to the employee needs, which we discussed earlier, we will see how we can balance the organization's goals with those needs. The professional leader's role should feed off the employee's needs. The leader's role of setting objectives with the employee meets the employee's need to have a chance to exceed their objectives, the need for input into decisions, and the need for a sense of accomplishment. The leader's role of delegating work meets the employee's need for acceptance from peers because they are part of a work team to whom the work is delegated. The leader's role of monitoring and controlling meets the employee's need for acceptance by their peers, the need to have input into decisions, employees recommend, new processes, etc. the need to have a chance to exceed objectives, and the need for feedback. This feedback will occur on a day-to-day basis as the leader monitors and controls the work with the employee's input. The leader's role of evaluating performance meets the needs for feedback, sense of accomplishment, acceptance from peers, and a report on whether they have exceeded their objectives. Organizational view of appraisal systems. In most organizations, performance of employees usually follows a bell curve. The top part of the bell contains the 96% of employees who regularly meet their objectives. Each shallow curve at either end of the bell curve represents the 2% of employees who regularly exceed their objectives or who regularly miss their objectives. Every organization must identify where their employee fits on the bell curve and if there are strong variances in percentages. Then action must be taken if the organization is to grow and prosper. In order to translate performance into action, use the 3 R's of managing and supervising employees: reward, retain, and release. Reward. The 2% who exceed their objectives are rewarded. In many organizations, this is a monetary reward of a salary increase, a one-time bonus, or any number of other rewards ranging from dinners, plaques, additional training at the organization's expense, etc. Retain. The 96% who will meet their objectives are retained. There isn't any reward other than the fact they get to keep their jobs. Some organizations are reluctant to rate employees with an exceed because they may have to reward them. They may not have sufficient budget to pay monetary rewards, but if you want to keep good employees, you will have to devise a system to reward employees while maintaining your budget. You could try reward schemes like cross-training, promotions, or fast-track them through management development programs. Denying an employee an exceed because the organization cannot or will not give monetary rewards will cause employees to look elsewhere to feel appreciated, or they will begin to grumble and complain and cause negative employee relation problems with other employees. And finally, release. The 2% who miss their objectives are released. Many organizations today will release employees on poor performance in an instant. Releasing an employee for poor performance could cause the organization legal problems if the employee sues for wrongful dismissal. There is, however, a 4th R, which many organizations use to help employees who consistently miss their objectives. Retrain. If the organization feels that employees still have something to contribute, they will try to retrain. This gives the employees another chance, and it shows that the organization is a caring organization. If an organization can afford this option, it will definitely create positive relations with employees. The organization may not necessarily discover all the reasons why employees miss objectives. Circumstances outside the workplace affect employees' performance in the workplace, and organizations may not be privy to this type of situation. Some organizations will also use reprimand, but this area is another possible legal situation. The employee must have been advised ahead of time that a reprimand could be possible and the conditions which would constitute a reprimand. Organizations must depend on their management team to perform evaluations on their employees. If the organization is having a problem getting the managers to conduct appraisals consistently, make their appraisals dependent on the roles which we discussed earlier. Setting measurable objectives with employees, delegating work effectively and consistently, monitoring and controlling the workload, evaluating employee performance, and providing feedback. The appraisal process. Once measurable objectives has been set and performance has been monitored for the organization's required period of time, the formal appraisal is conducted with the employees. The appraisal process is a formal business meeting which has 8 steps. 1. State the purpose of the meeting. Once the employee and the manager are in the meeting, the manager states the purpose of the meeting. For example, we are here to discuss performance for the period January to December. The manager must never use I or you when stating the purpose of the meeting. For example, not your performance or my opinions. The second step, set the agenda. This is a formal business meeting, and the manager is responsible to control the agenda. He or she will set the agenda for the meeting. For example, today we are going to go over the objectives. Next, we will discuss any issues which you have. Then I will raise my concerns. we will discuss the setting of some new action plans, and we will work together to set objectives for the next performance period. 3. Cover all objectives. The manager must cover all the objectives, whether they be hits or misses, but again, never use I or you. There were some problems with meeting the deadlines on some of the activity reports this past performance period. For example, the customer service survey in May was a resounding success. 4. Employees' input. The manager must next get the employees' input. It is suggested that employees be encouraged to bring their notes to the appraisal meeting as well. For example, sometimes the manager may have evaluated an employee as missing an objective, but in fact, the employee can identify a problem which was beyond his or her control, which caused the objective to be missed. 5. Raise concerns. Once the employee has had the opportunity to offer his or her input, the manager must raise his or her concerns about the misses. It is important that the manager identify the miss, explain why it was a miss, and the impact that it had on the department's and the organization's goals. For example, the activity reports are very important to the department, and the vice president uses them to plan strategy for customer service. When deadlines are missed, we lose our edge and our competitors, and our service to our customers becomes less than they expect from us. 6. Set action plans. Once the manager's concerns have been identified, action plans must be set for the next performance period. The employee must suggest the action plans to solve the issues. The misses may cause problems in the department and the organization, but the employee missing his or her objectives were the root cause, and it is the employee who must provide the solution. The manager should only ensure that the solution is within organizational policies and guidelines and is feasible to meet objectives. 7. Set objectives. The manager and employee should now set new objectives for the next performance period. The manager should never decide what the objectives should be. They must always be at least discussed with the employee. 8. Set follow-up meetings. The last step in the appraisal process is to set another meeting with the employee to follow up action plans and reinforce the employee's commitment to the action plans and their objectives. Managers must also ask themselves if they were a help or a hindrance to the employees meeting their objectives. Many organizations conduct performance reviews on a quarterly basis. If you do quarterly reviews, the annual review is simply a summary of the quarterly reviews. Whether you perform quarterly or annual or both, the same process as described here should be used and will be a valuable tool. Documenting results. Performance overview. The performance feedback process should be designed to help each employee set their work plans, actions, and behaviors for the coming year. The process also provides the opportunity for both employees and their managers to initiate and participate in performance discussions, give and receive feedback on progress towards business and development objectives. The process should be designed to be used on a quarterly basis. Each quarter, an appraisal should be reviewed and appropriate changes made and entered onto a new copy of the appraisal form. Using the customer service representative's position, the performance appraisal process will look something like this. Action customer requests for service within 24 hours, satisfactory. Solve customer problems within 24 hours, exceed. Document customer inquiries and problems, satisfactory. Submit all reports on time to customer service manager, needs improvement. Distribute reports to all personnel, needs improvement. Tracking of customer orders, satisfactory. Perform follow-up calls on delivery status, exceed. Organize daily customer service calls, exceed. Negotiate settlements of customer service problems, satisfactory. In other parts of the evaluation, the employee's ability to be at work on time and their compliance with absenteeism policies will also be evaluated under a self-management section in the same fashion. As an example, comes to work on time, satisfactory. Average absenteeism record, exceed. The manager must document his or her comments on the employee's hits and misses with recommendations for improvement where applicable. The manager will also discuss with the employee and make recommendations for career development, additional training required, or advancement. Quarterly reviews should be conducted in the same manner as annual reviews. They are basically performance reviews which progressively lead to the annual version. The formal process will help management conduct evaluations of employees that are consistent, fair, and professional and meet the employee's needs at the same time. In closing comments, performance appraisals are an integral part of the relationship between employees and the organization. They contribute to rewarding employees for exceeding their objectives, they help management control the workload and environment, and, conducted properly, maintain positive employee relations.